Very interesting new study about religious groups in the United States that I want to discuss with you. The fastest growing religious group in the country is no religion. In other words, people who don't associate with any particular religion. And this is not a new trend. This is actually something that we've been seeing for a while. Every time the Pew Religion Center does this report on I believe it's a yearly basis. And we're actually seeing the increased number of people not affiliated with religion have real measurable impact. So churches are closing all around the country or are having to merge communities that used to have six churches, if you can imagine it, in some cases, are merging and combining and end up sometimes with only two or three churches. We're seeing more political candidates than ever not professing a religion, many at the local level, more at the state level. Notably, Kirsten Sinema, who recently has taken over victory of her Senate seat from Arizona over Republican Martha McSally, the first senator to not profess a religion. So we're seeing this more and more. And the Pew Research Center, as I mentioned, again has their study on this issue out. And not surprisingly, when we break these results down by age, the younger you are, the more likely you are to select none as your religion. If looking at the results here as we are together, you'll notice that the silent generation, born between 28 and 45, has nearly 90% of its constituents professing a religion, whereas baby boomers and more so Generation X and more so older millennials and even more so younger millennials at 36% profess that they are not affiliated with any religion. When people are interviewed about having left, typically it's their Christian church, merely from a numbers perspective, most people in the US at least nominally identify as Christian when they identify with a religion. People are asked, well, why did you leave? Sometimes they talk about, the teachings don't relate to real life. I don't feel like there's any connection between the teachings and my actual life, or the rituals don't mean anything to me, or I actually am just bored or uninterested in the rituals. There's a lot of that. But I actually have a more sort of evolutionary perspective on the fading of religion, Pat. For me, it's sort of like a survival of the fittest or natural selection kind of approach to the fading of religion in the United States of America. Historically, survival has been very accurately predicted by the ability of individuals and groups to cooperate. This can include in small numbers. This can also include in large numbers. And one of the big distinguishing factors between Homo sapiens and earlier humans and Homo sapiens and other species is that Homo sapiens can cooperate in very large numbers in flexible ways. So to give you counterexamples, chimpanzees can cooperate flexibly. They can cooperate in foraging or hunting or building shelters, simple shelters in some cases, whatever. But they can only do that in small groups. Like chimpanzees can't organize themselves in a group of 500. Bees are an example of a species that can coordinate in huge numbers. Beehives with thousands of bees, they can coordinate, but only inflexibly on very narrow tasks. If bees all of a sudden need to coordinate 5,000 bees to file a tax return, I mean, it's a dumb example, but on something bigger, they're not able to do it. And humans can cooperate flexibly in large numbers. Years ago, many, many years ago, being part of a religious group increased your chances of survival. People who help you, religion increased collaboration for in-group members. We know that that's the case. And therefore, you actually had a higher chance of survival, of living long enough to have children and pass along your genes. That is now less likely to happen. You're not as likely to suffer in 2018 as a result of being unable to cooperate with mankind because you're not part of a religious group. It's less necessary, it's less advantageous in 2018 to be part of a religious group. It's no longer an issue of survival not to be religious. If you look even today at places where you're less likely to survive as an atheist, there are fewer atheists. The evolutionary advantage to religious belief still exists in some places. Like, look at a country, Yemen is an example. In Yemen, the population says that religion is extraordinarily important to them. Something like 98, 99% of the population says religion is extraordinarily important. In Yemen, there probably is a measurably higher chance of dying before reproducing if you're not religious. Contrast that with some place like Norway or Sweden, some of the least religious countries in the world. There's no real advantage to religion in the survival sense. There's no cooperation advantage in Norway or Sweden to being part of a church or a religious group. So we can look at this a few different ways. Yes, the more we learn about how the world works, the more that science explains things about the world, the decreased need for religion is noticed. And that is a factor. But there's also this other sort of evolutionary angle. And there is one concern here, Pat, which is that religion being none is fine. But if people are replacing religion with this vague new age, not really religion, but pretty horrible ideas connected to pseudoscience, that's something I would be very careful about.
Are you saying that I should return all the jade eggs I bought from the Goop website, Gwyneth Paltrow's website?
Yeah, no more vaginal steaming, Pat. We've got to stop that. It's extraordinarily dangerous, and you need to tell everybody in your family who's doing it that they need to stop right away. And we're kind of kidding, but there are a lot of really bad ideas right now under the umbrella, not of organized religious belief, but more sort of agnostic teachings and anti-vaccine sentiment, the pseudoscience stuff that Pat's bringing up that's based on or advertised on Gwyneth Paltrow's website, Goop, the type of garbage that Dr. Oz promotes. It's really important to keep an eye on that. But the trend with organized religion is very clear. It's dwindling in the United States. And the biggest upside for me, like, you could say, David, we should care about people believing things without evidence, no matter whether they're doing it privately or publicly or both. Fine. We can argue it's not good for people to literally believe that if you eat shrimp, you're going to hell or whatever, right? I mean, whatever the teachings are. The biggest upside for me, though, is in the end, if people believe whatever they believe privately, if it doesn't impact what they want to have happen in the public sphere, if they are okay with total separation of church and state, I don't really care what they believe privately, although I might disagree with it. The upside for me of more people in the United States professing none as their religion is that it should allow it to be easier for our elected officials to be much more clear, much more direct, much more black and white on the issue of secularism, meaning a total separation of church and state. And that's a good thing because that's actually a principle the country was founded on. And now here's my question to you, or my proposal to you. If you're hearing me tell this story of people moving away from religion in the United States, and you think it's bad, if you think it would be better for people in the United States to remain more religious or to move back towards religion, please get in touch with me and let me know why. Why is it bad that people are moving away from religion in the United States? I want to hear from you. We will also ask for thoughts on this via our Instagram account, instagram.com/David Pakman Show. Make sure you're following us there. And also follow me on Instagram at david.pakman. You can find behind the scenes pictures of the new studio and much more. We will take a quick break. What a program we have for you today.